When it comes to this twisted corner of cinema, I think it's fair to say that no other genre has as passionate fans as horror movie hounds. And of course, along with that passion comes a certain eagerness to see very specific movies actually happen. And as such, there are a bunch of projects from throughout the years that have been stuck in development hell or even just languishing as a title and a byline that us fans have been dying to see finally happen. And with that in mind, I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 9 horror movies that are finally happening. Number 9, The Boogeyman. Thankfully, not some sort of dire remake of the Boogeyman trilogy that we were subjected to in the 2000s. This new version of The Boogeyman is a far more welcome proposition. Originally penned by Stephen King in 1973, The Boogeyman would properly come to prominence as part of 1978's Night Shift collection. In terms of the plot of the source material, the entire tale takes place in a psychiatrist's office as a patient regales his doctor with the horrors of his many run-ins with the titular monster. Cool concept, huh? Well, for the movie adaptation that's apparently coming in June, things have been fleshed out a little bit to sustain a feature-length movie. With hosts Rob Savage in the director's chair, the picture will shine a spotlight on psychiatrist Will and his daughters Sadie and Sawyer as they deal with the death of the family's matriarch. And when one of Will's patients turns up at his door, a sinister entity is brought with them. And seriously, considering just how many Stephen King adaptations have been had across television and movies, it's kind of surprising that it's taken so long to get around to The Boogeyman. But again, that might be more due to the association that we have with those terrible 2000s movies than we do the actual source material. Number 8, Lure. The most recently announced movie on this list earlier this month, which at the time of recording is March by the way, it was announced that The Nun's Corin Hardy was attached to direct Lure for Platinum Dunes and Universal Studios. It's actually Universal Pictures, but I don't want to do a take of that line again, so I'm sorry. While the title in itself may mean nothing to eager horror hounds, Lure will finally shine a cinematic spotlight on one of the most notoriously haunted buildings in the United States. For those of you who enjoy real-life hauntings and the like, the name King's Tavern should ring a couple bells. Said to be haunted by several nefarious spirits, this is a building which had the skeletal remains of 3 bodies once found behind a fireplace. Likewise, one of these bodies is believed to be the mistress of the tavern's original owner, a mistress who was murdered by the owner's wife. Built in 1769, the King's Tavern was remarkably open as recent as 2020, so it's kind of surprising that it's taken this long for the supposedly haunted space to get the movie treatment. Number 7, The Nun 2. And speaking of Corin Hardy, it's probably worth mentioning that his movie The Nun is finally getting a sequel this year. Though this time it's helmed by Michael Chavez, who himself is no stranger to the Conjuring universe, having directed 2 of these movies previously. Now, the original Nun movie wasn't great by any means, but hey, neither was the first Annabelle, and that received a great sequel that completely apologized for the tepid first go. Like Annabelle as well, the Nun, or Valak to give her proper name, is scary and interesting enough to finally get a solo movie that does the character justice. Not much is known about the plot as of yet, but Thaisa Farmiga is returning, and yes, once more along for the ride will be Bonnie Aarons as the physical presence of Valak. Let's just hope this one inspires a little bit more love than the original did. Number 6, Evil Dead Rise. I don't want to alarm everyone, but it has been 10 years since Fede Alvarez treated us to the 2013 remake of Evil Dead. Yes, it has been 10 years since we've had an Evil Dead movie, and I know we had Ash vs. the Evil Dead in between, which was really great, but there's something so special about seeing the Deadites on screen. And we very much nearly didn't get that with this movie either, as Evil Dead Rise was originally supposed to hit streaming last year. But it's since been retooled as a theatrical experience and will be coming at the end of April. Hey, you might have already seen it by the time you sit down to watch this video. While the proposed direct sequel to Alvarez's 13 film unfortunately spun its wheels in development hell before completely stalling, the latest venture into the Evil Dead series promises to deliver a completely new tale as two sisters do their best to save their family from the demonic, demented Deadites. Written and directed by The Hole in the Ground's Lee Cronin, the movie has already received a bunch of strong early reviews and a bunch of killer trailers that I actually refused to watch. I saw the first one, thought this looked awesome, and wanted no more spoilers, so please, don't spoil me in the comments. I don't want to see what happens with that cheese grater. I really don't. Someone's definitely going to find me now and just leak the entire film's plot to me. Please don't hurt me. Anyway, like I said, this one is coming imminently, and let's see if it lives up to the hype. Number 5, Haunted Mansion. While Justin Simeon's Haunted Mansion movie is set to hit theaters this August, this is a project that's been stuck in development hell for 10 whole years. And most frustratingly, when it was originally announced in 2010, it actually originally had Maestro Guillermo del Toro at the helm, who was announced to be directing the movie alongside writing and producing it. At the time, Del Toro promised to make Haunted Mansion as a fun family film, but likewise promised that the scares would be genuinely scary. But by 2013, GDT had departed the project, with his version of the movie being deemed too scary by Disney. And you know what? Fair enough. If his Pinocchio movie is anything to go by, the guy isn't afraid to get dark. And I love that, but do 5-year-olds love that? I don't know. They should, though. Still, here we are in 2023, and the Disneyland staple is once again bringing its charms to the silver screen. Pegged as a family-friendly horror comedy, the film centers on Rosario Dawson's Gabby and her 9-year-old son moving into the titular New Orleans mansion. As one would expect, it soon becomes apparent that this mansion is indeed haunted, and a ragtag team of experts are brought in to assist Gabby in ridding the house of its spirits. Cast, this could admittedly still be a really strong family horror. Number 4, The Exorcist. A new Exorcist film, you say, one that's actually a direct sequel to William Friedkin's iconic 1973 original. You can colour me intrigued. Currently penciled in for a theatrical release in Halloween 2023, David Gordon Green, who as you probably know co-wrote and directed the recent Halloween trilogy reboot, is overseeing a new Exorcist movie that will ignore everything but the events of the 73 effort. And admittedly, to find the last good Exorcist film, you have to go all the way back to 1990 with the absolutely underrated masterpiece that is The Exorcist 3. And with audiences having their appetite whet with Fox's impressive Exorcist TV series in 2016 and 2017, there has been a growing demand to explore this world on the silver screen once more. And for fans of the original out there, you might be over the moon to hear that Ellen Burstyn is back as Chris McNeil, who of course played Reagan's mother in the original, and will be returning for this new movie. It doesn't end there though, as this revival is apparently planned as a brand new trilogy. Now, I'll let you decide in the comments whether you trust David Gordon Green to oversee another beloved horror property for 3 whole movies, because, well, if I speak, I am in big trouble. Number 3, Dark Harvest. Rather than finally happening, Dark Harvest has already technically happened. As in, production has long finished on this film. An adaptation of Norman Partridge's 2006 novel of the same name, Dark Harvest was initially set for a September 2021 release, before the date was pushed back by a year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That September 2022 date has clearly been and gone, though MGM is expected to finally get the film into cinemas before 2023 is out. As for the premise of Dark Harvest, well, it's set in a small Midwestern town where every year the area comes together for The Run. What is The Run, I hear you ask? Well, it's an event where every year the teenage boys of the town all get together to try and kill a knife-wielding lunatic. You know, just dudes being dudes. Given the strong source material and that 30 Days of Night and Hard Candy's David Slade is on directing duties, hope is high that Dark Harvest will impress as and when it finally slices its way to the silver screen. Number 2, Thanksgiving. For those of you lucky enough to watch Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez's full Grindhouse project in cinemas, you'll fondly remember a bunch of fake trailers that were attached to it. And initially intended to just be that, fictional movies that were never going to be made, so popular were some of these previews that it's since led to Machete and Hobo with a Shotgun being spun off into full features. And now Eli Roth's Thanksgiving has been confirmed to be making the jump as well. As revealed earlier this year, Roth is writing and directing this Thanksgiving flick, with the only known plot details currently being that the film will see your classic slasher killer head to a small Massachusetts town with the aim of, quote, creating a Thanksgiving board out of the town's inhabitants, end quote. So yeah, there's worse premises, I'd say. Number 1, Saw 10/Saw X. Now, the realization that another Saw film is on the way isn't exactly a surprising one. This movie franchise hasn't stayed dead for long. But what will likely pique the interest of fans and might also come as a surprise is that franchise lead, Tobin Bell, who of course played John Kramer, aka the Jigsaw Killer, has signed on to reappear as the iconic character. Now, while Kramer was technically killed off in Saw 3, the character has been featured in flashbacks in every subsequent entry in the series bar Spiral. And joining Tobin Bell is another surprise in the shape of Shawnee Smith. For those unaware, Smith played Amanda Young, who was revealed as Jigsaw's apprentice in Saw 2, and much like John Kramer, Amanda also ended up dead by the time Saw 3 came to a close. At the time, all that's known about the movie is that it apparently finished up filming in February, and that the director of the 6th installment, in my opinion one of the best in the entire franchise, is back on directing duties. And as for a bunch of horror releases on this list, it's aiming for an October 2023 release date. A lot of people are speculating, due to the nature that both of these characters are definitely dead and buried, that it'll focus on the early days of their apprenticeship and actually act as a prequel, but until we see the film itself, and more importantly, until we see the credits roll, we probably will have no idea that's concreted down. Concreted down isn't a phrase, but you know what I mean. We won't know until we know. Concreted down. At least it's the end of the list. If you made it this far, thank you. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. How many of these movies are you looking forward to? And are there any other long gestating projects that are finally set to be released? Let me know, and while you're in the comments, if you could, please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to What Culture Horror for more lists and news like this on the regular. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.